Another day, another week. It's great to be in the SEC. Thank you for tuning in to the SEC Recap Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Warren. Don't forget to like, subscribe, get notified for new episodes each and every week. Remember, you can find all our content at secrecap.com. You can also find us on YouTube. Today, I am bringing you my game of the week for Week 8. Vanderbilt at Missouri. You can check out the article for this at our website, secrecap.com/articles. We're available anywhere you prefer to chug your podcasts. Hey, if you've ever wanted to see a fruit smoothie go at it with an old marshmallow, look no further than Vandy at Mizzou in the Charmin Ultra Bowl, the Power Five's softest college football game of the season. I actually heard that for this game, tackling is going to be replaced with limp-wristed slapping. Slapping only, no tackling. The Vanderbilt Commodores travel to Columbia, Missouri to tickle fight the Missouri Tigers. 3 p.m. Central Time kickoff. Mizzou is somehow a 14-point favorite. I think when Mizzou saw this line, they screenshotted it, printed, framed it, and inducted it into their Hall of Fame. Let's take a peek at some stats. On offense, Vanderbilt has the number 73 offense in the country in terms of scoring offense. Commodores average 28.4 points per game, 347 yards, 5.5 yards a play, 62 plays a game, about 29 and a half minutes in time of possession. On the passing side, they're gaining close to 200 yards a game, 2 touchdowns a game. They got 14 total TDs on the season. In the run game, they're putting up about 150 yards a game, 1.4 TDs on average for 10 total on the season. They do have 1 interception, and they have lost 5 out of 10 fumbles. Some notable matchups here. Vandy has played, at the time, number 23 Wake Forest, number 2 Alabama, number 9 Ole Miss, and number 1 Georgia. Those last 3, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, were back to back to back. The Vandy offense totaled 56 combined points against Wake, Alabama, and Ole Miss, though most of those were at Wake and Ole Miss, 25 and 28 respectively. They just hung a field goal on the Crimson Tide. Missouri, number 95 in the country in terms of scoring offense. This is just not a good offense. They've put up some yardage. They just have not been able to convert a lot of their drives into points, which ultimately is what matters, right? Tigers average 25 or so points per game, 374 yards per game. Again, 5.5 yards a play, 67 plays a game, and about 30 minutes in time of possession. So just by the numbers, Mizzou and Vandy's offense, not too different there. On the passing side, Mizzou is putting up about the same yardage, around 200. Only 5 passing touchdowns on the season, though. Again, they're just not finishing drives where they need to be. In the run game, they're getting 160 or so yards a game, 1.7 TDs. They've got 10 total on the season. 8 interceptions for this offense. And they've lost 3 out of 4 fumbles. Not as many notable matchups for Mizzou. Kansas State, at the time, I think that was their second game of the season. They were unranked. Kansas State, pretty good team, currently ranked number 7. And then we all remember that Week 5 matchup versus number 1 Georgia in Columbia there. Where it's kind of an ugly, slow defensive game until the fourth quarter. Mizzou's offense combined a total 34 points against those two teams. 12 against Kansas State, and 22 against Georgia. Most of those 22 were field goals. So the advantage here offensively, I'm given to Vanderbilt. Let's flip it on over to the defensive side. Vanderbilt, not a good defense. In fact, an atrocious defense, but we'll get more into that here in a second. Number 130 in the country in scoring defense. Commodores average 39.4 points allowed and almost 500 yards a game they're giving up. Whew. Passing defense is allowing 333 yards a game. They've allowed 20 touchdowns on the season. Run defense is allowing 160 yards, and they've given up 15 touchdowns on the year. Defense has collected 3 interceptions and recovered 6 fumbles. So They're giving up a lot of yards. They're giving up a lot of points, but it is a pretty scrappy little defense. Notable matchups here, though. Alabama, Georgia, Wake Forest, Ole Miss. What do those 4 teams have in common? Well, they're all top 15 offenses. Alabama, number 5, Georgia, number 10, Wake Forest, number 14, and Ole Miss, number 15. So this Vanderbilt defense has been exploited by some really, really good, top tier even, offenses. Mizzou, on the other hand, number 57 in the country in terms of scoring defense. Tigers are averaging 24.7 points allowed and 329 yards a game. Again, maybe a little misleading here. We'll take a look and see why. Passing defense allowing 191 yards a game. They've only given up 5 total touchdowns. Run defense allowing 138 yards a game. They've given up 9 touchdowns on the season. This defense has collected 5 interceptions and recovered 5 fumbles. Notable matchups here. You're going to see where I'm going. Georgia, Kansas State. Georgia, the number 10 offense. Kansas State, number 71 offense. Georgia still totaled 481 yards in that ugly slugfest. They just weren't finishing drives with touchdowns until the fourth quarter. Credit Mizzou's defense for that. They had a great scheme to slow that Georgia offense down. But hey, if you remember week 2, Kansas State was a blowout. It was 40-12. So these defensive numbers are skewed in favor of Missouri compared to Vandy because, 1, Vandy has played 7 games to Mizzou's 6, so they have that extra game in there. 4 of Vandy's games have been against top 15 offenses. And then Georgia, Alabama, Kansas State, and Ole Miss are also all top 20 defenses. Vandy has played 3 out of the 4, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. Mizzou has played 2 of those 4, Georgia and Kansas State. So you just take a look at the numbers here. You look at a stat sheet. You look at defensive rankings. You see, oh, Missouri's ranked higher than Vandy. They're a better defense. Those numbers are skewed pretty heavily. I'm actually calling this one a scratch. I'm not giving either team an advantage. Vandy has an atrocious pass defense, but those numbers are skewed for Missouri because of the level of competition that they've played. Taking a look at key injuries. On the Vandy side, really the only one that stands out, Chase Gillespie, running back. Look, he's not the top running back on that depth chart, but you do need depth at that position to make a difference. Missouri side, Luther Burden, ankle injury. He's probable to come back. Chris Abrams-Drain, DB, he's probable to return this weekend. And then Chad Bailey at linebacker, still questionable. We'll see when he makes it back to the field. Key players for Vanderbilt, no surprise here. A.J. Swan, quarterback. He's done a great job of not turning the ball over. No interceptions on the season. He's really going to need that O-line to prevent sacks so he can distribute the ball against a pretty good Missouri pass D. They had a really good scheme against Georgia. They've held Auburn and Florida to pretty low-scoring games. So if Vandy's going to win this one, they're going to need to move the ball down the field. A.J. Swan to those receivers. They're also going to need a big day from Ray Davis, running back. Missouri's rush D is softer than their pass defense. Vandy needs to open some lanes on the line of scrimmage, get the run going, control time of possession. Lastly here, I'm going to say the O-line. Protect the pocket, give Swan time to make some decisions, and like I said, open up the run game. That's their best shot. For Missouri, quarterback Brady Cook, he really just needs to not turn the ball over. Man, he's thrown 6 interceptions, and he's been sacked 12 times on the season. Vanderbilt has the second worst pass defense in the country. So this is an easily exploitable passing defense, even with Mizzou's lackluster offense. And then I think any wide receiver, if any wide receiver can step up, if they get Luther Burden back, great. As I said, Vandy's pass D is soft as Charmin. Any wide receiver should be able to score on this defense. Mizzou's just got to finish drives, man. It's just something they haven't been doing all season. So what I think it comes down to, Vandy's pass rush versus Missouri's O-line. With a secondary as bad as the Commodores, they're going to need to disrupt Mizzou's backfield just to avoid getting shredded. Yes, shredded. It could happen by Missouri. And then a weird one here. I don't like saying this, but kickers. Even though Mizzou's defense is statistically decent, I still think Vandy's gonna move the ball well enough to get within field goal range several times. And if they can't finish a drive with touchdowns, I think both teams could find themselves in situations where they just need to take points. Kicker's gonna come into play big here, I think, at least for a couple apiece. After all, when you're fighting to not be literally the worst team in the SEC, just take the damn points. The odds. ESPN's FPI has Missouri favored at an 84.6% chance to win versus Vanderbilt at a 15.4% chance to win. I don't like it. I don't like ESPN's FPI much to begin with. I definitely don't agree with those numbers. The spread favors Missouri at -14, as does the money line at -600. Again, at the time I'm writing and recording this. The over-under sits at 53 at the time of writing, with team totals for Missouri at 32.3 and Vandy at 20.9. I lean toward the under in this matchup. The only FBS team Mizzou has scored more than 22 points against was Louisiana Tech in their home opener. I think they had 30-something versus Abilene Christian, but that's not an FBS team, that's an FCS team. So I'm not giving them credit for that. Meanwhile, Vandy has tallied 25 points against Wake Forest, who's a current top 25 team, 38 against Northern Illinois, that was on the road, 28 against a top 20 Ole Miss defense. Ole Miss currently ranked number 7 in the country. Now, they were shut out against Georgia, but let's be honest, Missouri is not Georgia, despite what we saw in that Week 5 game, or what you might believe. So I'm giving Vandy's offense a lot more credit than the odds makers here, and I'm gonna undersell what they're giving me with Missouri. I'm not buying 32 points from Missouri. My final prediction: it's mid-season and nobody's 100% healthy. Mizzou's coming off a bye week, enjoying some rest and rehab, while Vandy is coming off a road whipping at Georgia. And really, Vandy's coming off a 3-week brutal stretch. Alabama, Ole Miss, at Georgia. Now they got to travel to Columbia. There's a lot about the odds I don't like. I actually think 14 points for Vanderbilt is too many. At the same time, Mizzou is at home. They're a little bit healthier. They've had more prep for Vandy in what is a pretty significant game for both of these teams. This is, after all, the Charmin Ultra battle for the bottom. Like I said, I like the under on 53, but I like Vandy to cover in a closer game. This one's given me 27-24 vibes. So the numbers say I should pick Missouri to win, but hell, I just love the idea of Vandy getting the W and making Mizzou the bottom biatch of the SEC. I'm taking Vanderbilt 27, Mizzou 24. Anchor down, let's go Doors. Looking at the rest of the SEC slate here in Week 8, not a ton of games, but we do have UT Martin traveling to number 3 Tennessee. Watch out, don't sleep on the Skyhawks. They might mess around and cover that 60-point spread. Number 7, Ole Miss goes to LSU. This is a big one for LSU. But I think Ole Miss can take advantage of LSU the same way Tennessee did. A lot of people are really bearish on the Rebels here in the back half of the season. I'm saying Rebels can get this done, even if it is a close one in Baton Rouge. Mississippi State, number 24 Mississippi State, that is at number 6 Alabama. I kind of like Mississippi State this year. I hate that it has to end this way. Rest in peace, Mike Leach and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. We hardly knew ye. Finally, Texas A&M at South Carolina. Yeah. Low scoring, mistake riddled, procedure penalty ridden offensive nightmare, like two desperate possums fighting over an old ass corn cob in a rusty trash can. I don't even want to pick a winner. I just want to watch two mid-tier cross-division SEC teams fight to get bowl eligible. Straight into my veins. That's going to do it for our Game of the Week episode. If you enjoyed this content, give me a follow on Twitter at SEC Recap. Check out everything we do at secrecap.com. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe, rate, review. It helps us grow our audience. It helps us grow the show and bring you more of what you want to hear. Guys, have a great week. Have a great weekend. And it's great to be in the SEC right here on the SEC Recap.